go. Right, so welcome to another edition of the Influencer Marketing Roundtable, and particularly for those of you that are from overseas. In fact, all of you are from overseas. So we're just going to go through a short session this morning, and then we're going to have a discussion afterwards. Super quick, because I know most of you know this. Just a reminder of who I am. I'm the chair of the Branded Content Marketing Association. I also host my own Influence Global podcast, author of Influencer Marketing Strategy, which I'm very excited about, has just appeared in Waterstones, bookshops and foils in London, which I went to see at the weekend. So that was a really nice experience to see that. I'm also a keynote speaker and panelist on many influencer sessions. And more recently, in January, I joined Audience to Media as Chief Strategy Officer. And as you can see on the bottom there, I'm very much involved in a number of different association bodies. I also have my own program, which is to help individuals become more influential. And I do that through a 5-step process. So if anybody's interested in finding out more about that, then please drop me a line. We've had some amazing testimonials from the people that have worked with me. I only work on a one-to-one basis, not on any sort of group coaching, because it's very much personal, and we really do deliver, I think, outstanding results for our clients. So today's session, I've got a bit of kickback, by the way. I don't know what. Can you everybody put their mute on for me? Thanks. As we do every Wednesday morning, 8:30 to 9:30 UK time, we're going to be talking about negotiating with influencers. But before we do that, I thought it'd be quite interesting to find out what influencers want. Now, when I was involved with the Branded Content Marketing Association I still am, of course, but when I was involved a couple of years ago, we ran a survey with one of our members, Waylar, and they surveyed over 250 of their content creators. And we asked them a number of questions about what they really wanted. And there were some really interesting things that came out of that, which I'm going to share with you. First of all, one shouldn't underestimate that these individuals are almost creative agencies in their own right. They're multi-skilled in the sense that they're not only creating content, photographers, videographers, they're location scouts, they're digital natives in many instances. And they build amazing communities that are very, very focused on what their message is all about. So I guess that headline is treat them as such, not just somebody that you can send a product to and that they're going to happily promote it for you. And I said in one of my earlier podcasts, a free dress doesn't pay the rent. So I think that's really important. And they're human beings. They're working alone, and they're often in this, what I would call, hamster wheel of content creation. You know, when you're in the early days of being a content creator influencer, it's always very exciting and you're starting to get traction. And then the problem is you think, well, I've got to keep doing this. I feel like I'm on this hamster wheel. You know, and we all have off days, don't we? Not everybody can be on fire all of the time. You know, we have mood swings, we have things happening in our personal life. But when you're creating content for a brand, with a brand, or for your own audience, you know, if you're not consistent with that, then, you know, you're going to lose followers, you're going to lose engagement, and that's a challenge for them. So there is a certain pressure, and they should be treated with respect. They want to be briefed well and paid on time. You know, there's plenty of examples of influencer campaigns that haven't worked very well. And a lot of the time is because the influencer has misinterpreted or not understood what you're trying to deliver. At the end of the day, don't ever forget, they want to have a campaign that works well just as much as you do. So if you're not briefing them well, or they're not understanding everything there is to know about your brand, then the chances are you're not going to deliver the results that you want. Also, make sure that you pay them on time. I mean, some insist on payment up front, but at the very least, they should be paid within a very timely method. I know some small businesses that work with big clients have a ridiculous time to wait for money, which can be as much as sometimes 90 days. Well, unfortunately, when you're working on your own, that's just not acceptable at all. And let's not forget, these guys have got access to social media, so they can call out companies that are poorly treating them. They want their content to be respected and enjoyed. They don't do it just for the sake of it. When they're creating a video, it's very personal, it's very authentic, and it matters to them about how people perceive it. They also want to be given enough time to create content and involved in the campaign discussion earlier. They're not just media buys or content amplifiers. What they are is a big part of that creative element. And I've seen plenty of examples over the years where a brand has been so amazed by the level of content that the creator has done for them. They thought, well, we would never have even thought about promoting or using our brand in that way. You've really given us an idea that will start to develop further. So I think influencers, want to feel that they're not just, as I say, an amplifier, but very much involved in the whole process as early as possible. As I said earlier, what they want is to make sure that they're briefed properly, but also are there proper brand guidelines and details about the company. For example, is the brand pronounced Nike or Nike? If they're making a video and the brand is not well positioned, then they could actually find themselves creating a whole video, spending time to do that, only to find that the brand has rejected it at the approval stage. So the more information they can give them, the better. Many organizations and talent agencies have proper influencer contracts. We certainly do it audience to media, and that's really, really important. So everybody understands exactly what's expected of them, how they should create the content, when they should create it, and the implications of what happens if they don't. And that is to protect both the brand and the influencer. They also want one point of contact in any one company. There's nothing more frustrating for them than having multiple contacts. Oh, that's the finance person, that's the person that's involving content, that's the person that's involving the brand. So one point of contact. What they don't want to be done is told exactly what to say. So please say this, and this, almost scripted. An influencer is not an actor. So the difference is that they want to be able to be given some flexibility on how they convey that message, because their tone of voice is very, very important. They also don't want to be asked to do everything for free. Now what happens sometimes, even with paid campaigns, sometimes brand will say, oh, will you just do this? Would you mind just adding on? And a lot of influencers will end up doing that, but they shouldn't be taken for granted at all, because it's not about just pleasing the brand. It's about having mutual respect for one another. So let's just talk a little bit more now about negotiating with them, because once you've decided as a brand that you want to work with an influencer, you need to think about, well, what price am I going to be able to be getting for those influencers? And that price is not an average rate card. Yes, there are sort of somewhat set standards, but it can vary so much. It can vary according to a number of things. So just before you've decided on that, make sure that you've really researched that influencer and ensuring that you've got an ideal content match. Making sure that there's a certain amount of organic posts, not just sponsored posts. Because what you don't want is what I would call a market trader influencer that literally is promoting one brand every 5 minutes. Because getting cut through to your audience and conversion is unlikely to happen when you've got somebody doing that. Also, you want to make sure that they haven't been actively promoting a competitor of yours. They haven't used a lot of profanity or issues that could be controversial for your brand. That might be having a stand on an issue that is somewhat controversial. So do make sure that, at the end of the day, you are wanting to work with somebody that is a temporary employee. So if you think about the steps you take to work with an employee, think about the same with an influencer, because obviously in most instances things are going to go really well or work well for you, but not everything does. Sometimes there's examples of where influencers have gone rogue and it's had a damaging effect on the brand. So you need to make sure that you do your research. Certainly decide on the compensation method and timing. So is it going to be payment up front? Is it going to be payment on the first phase of posts? Is it going to be, and when that's going to be? So it's very clear as to how that's laid out. You also want to check on the level of experience as a content creator and their results. Many influencers have media kits, or certainly the professional ones do, because unless you're working with an influencer platform or an agency like Audience to Media, then you're not going to have access to the data behind their results. In other words, what their engagement rates are, what their gender split is, their geolocation of their follower base, and so on and so forth. So it's really important that you get an idea of their experience. And by the way, just on that last note, you can always ask for a media kit, and they'll have a lot of information on that, some of the brands that they've worked with, the results, and so on. So that's quite handy. You want to have a look at the frequency of posts and stories. So somebody might say, okay, it's going to be X £100 for one post, but if you do a series of posts and one story, I'll do it for that price. But do you see what I mean? You could well find that. We're just, for example, we're working with a YouTuber at the moment, and we've managed to get his price point down significantly based upon us giving a commitment to a 3-month contract. So at least he knows it's not just a one-off campaign. He's working with us for at least 3 months, and you could obviously extend that further. So the more likely you can guarantee them regularity, the more likely you'll be able to get a competitive price from them. Yeah, so I guess that's just answering that last question, long-term versus one-off. It could be as well that you might be thinking about ideally identifying ambassadors, people that are going to be, a big integral part in your overall business strategy. So be mindful of that, making sure that you keep the strong ones on side. And that's what's really good about running a campaign of a number of influencers. No, they're not all going to be firing off the same hymn sheet together. You're going to find that some of them are racing away and really delivering results. But it's really important to understand why that is, why some of those individuals have been successful. Is it because of the timing of the post or the video? Is it because of the way that they've actually been promoting the product? And more importantly is understanding the comments that those followers are reacting to. Another thing that influencers like, I won't lie, is freebies and perks. Anything that sort of gives them this sort of exclusive access, like VIP tickets or behind the scenes is really, really important for them. Giveaways that they can give to their audience, because the most important thing for an influencer, without a shadow of a doubt, is to nourish and grow their following, because the bigger the following, the higher their value. The more engaged their following, the more likely they are to get brand deals. So they will be, if it means that you've only got so much budget to spend with them, but actually you could provide them with a number of free products, or you can give them an exclusive access content for behind the scenes in some shape or form, then you might well find that you get an overall package that actually suits both of you. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's really just to summarize the last point I was making, really. Is there a way where you can create some very unique and specific content with that particular influencer? Because I guess a lot of them don't want to be part of everybody else. They want that uniqueness. They want to be able to say that I'm bringing you out, my audience, into this exclusive environment. And I'm creating some, I mean, what you are starting to see now is brands not just using influencers as promotions, but actually using them as part of their research strategy as well. In fact, there was a very good example of an organization that took half a dozen influencers over to Brazil to develop an exciting new product. And they were there for sort of 3 or 4 days, and it was like a brand immersion day. And each day that they were there, they were reaching out to their followers and saying, look, what do you think of this particular product? What do you think of the style? What do you think of the messaging? And they were getting lots of interactions from them. So can you imagine when the product actually came out to be launched? Not only did those half a dozen influencers really get behind it, but of course, so did their followers, which was a really, really smart move. And I know that particular agency has continued to foster that idea of with some of their clients. So it's a good idea. Very important thing to think about with influencers is rights issues, usage rather. How long does the influencer keep that content on their feed? Now, and how much can the brand use that content within their own social media? And that's really important, that stated as a contract. I think when there's no contract in place, I think some brands think, oh yeah, great, I can just use that content. I've paid for the influencer. I can use that on my website, on all my social media, on all sorts of things. I can use it as a campaign. Answer, no, you cannot. That content has been created by the content creator. And unless there is explicit agreement that that could be used in that way, then it can't. And the influencer has every reason to to take that forward as a breach of copyright. So it's really important that that's done in place. Now, the reason why I think that's an important negotiation play is because it might mean that you can get a better price by only saying to the influencer, okay, well, we'll only keep it up for a certain period of time, or we'd like to buy your content for use in a social ad campaign, and that could be another part of the agreement as well. And the other thing, lastly, is to think about is affiliate links and commissions. So where there's an opportunity for influencers to either earn a kickback from products that they're selling, or to give a discount code to their followers that they can use as well. And of course, that could all be part of the overall negotiation. I mean, you could almost look at this as a bit of a bundle package, couldn't you? And you could say, look, okay, if we do this, this, and this, and you do this, this, and this, the overall agreement price is that. So hopefully those are a few ideas to stimulate you further. And let's have a broader discussion about it. Great. Hopefully you found that interesting. Kirk, do you want to sort of kick off? What do you think about sort of what I was saying?
Yes, I like the part where you said the length of partnership. It's really important to indicate the length of work, of how long you're going to work with that person. It's really important right then and there. You have to have an agreement regarding about your deliverables and the type of work you're going to do for that length of time.
Yeah, and I know when you're talking to people about social media accounts, aren't you? I know that's what I've seen when some of the proposals of the people that I've been putting forward to work with you guys, you've pretty much said a minimum of 3 months, haven't you? Because quite frankly, you're not going to move the needle in less time than that. Because that's pessimistic, isn't it? I mean, even 3 months is not very much. I mean, 3 months goes like a heartbeat, doesn't it? So
Yes.
yeah. And then and what do you get when you come to, just generally when you come, I mean, obviously I'm talking about influencers here. Where do you find the negotiation elements are? What can you negotiate on, and what can where do you find there's a midway?
Um, where do we find those kinds of, your question is where do we find those kinds of influencers?
Well, do you? I'm thinking. A, do you work with influencers? I can't. I don't know if you do. Do you?
Yes, well, like what you said, YouTubers, YouTube influencers. So yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, yeah. So when you're speaking to YouTubers, then, and they're giving you a price point, what do you, and you think, okay, well, the client has said to me, I've only got so much to spend. What happens next?
You really have to indicate everything, whatever it is you want to be done, especially the deliverables, um, what type of work you're gonna do for 3 months, so on and so forth.
Yeah. And what sort of responses do you find that they give back to you?
Responses.
So if I'm a
Basically,
YouTuber now, and I've got I don't know, 500,000 subscribers, and I'm gonna, and I'm your absolute target audience, and my fee is I don't know, £2,000 for a YouTube video. What are you gonna say to me?
I think it's a good deal. Um, because the amount of investment you're going to give that person is going to go back to you in the long run. So and you said he has about 1 million followers, so I bet you can get like half or even like 10% of those kinds of people where they can actually invest in your business.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, thank you, Kirk. John, what was your take on some of the things I was talking about?
Actually, really interesting. When it's something I never thought about before really meeting you and coming and getting involved in this group, with regards to treating influencers as human beings and realizing that it's actually their business.
Absolutely.
Like your great term, a dress doesn't pay the bills. Just yesterday we had a board meeting with Super Sevens. This is the game that we're launching at the moment. So we were talking about marketing strategies and so on and so forth. And one of the shareholders said, "Oh, I've got two friends. They've both got like 500,000 followers on
TikTok.
No,
YouTube.
IG, Instagram, on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll get them to whack out a post." And I said, "Oh, that'd be great, but what is it that they actually do?" And he said, one's a makeup artist, and the other one is, I don't know, dresses or clothing or something like that. So I said, well, it'll be great. I said, we must find out what we're going to, whether it's going to work with the brand, how they, would like to get involved, and obviously how much we're going to pay them. And he said, "Oh, no, we won't have to pay them. They'll just post it for me." And I said, "Yeah, but
will they? But will they? I mean, do you know what I was going to say, John? Is because if I was somebody that's got 500,000 followers, and I was just putting a random post out for something that wasn't absolutely in my niche, I'd be thinking, that's gonna, even though I might not, even I wouldn't ask my friends to do something that in my niche, because actually they're smart. They've created all of this audience. I mean, okay, they might consider a story, but certainly not something that's going to go on their post and grid, because
that's right. That's right. But I actually said in the meeting yesterday, we can't just expect these people to just whack a post out there for us.
Absolutely.
There has to be behind it, and it has to have value for them as well.
Absolutely.
And I actually used that line and said to them, you've got to remember, there might be someone with 500,000 followers, but they're actually a business, and we've got to respect that.
Absolutely.
And it was actually quite strange how everybody actually understood it and took it.
Well,
there
good
was
for you.
eight of us.
Well, good for you. And look, what was that first thing I said? That first little blue white box said, treat them they want to be treated with respect. And I think, unfortunately, some of the press have misaligned influencers and mainstream media, because of what I would call the TV type celebrity and blah, blah, blah. And because it's all about freebies and perks and this sort of superficial fake life. And yes, there's a degree of that, but actually it's not a big percentage of it. And let's not forget, there's millions and millions of dollars being pumped into influencer marketing. Where do you think that money's come from? It's not new money.
Yeah.
It's come from television, print, media, advertising, who've been shafted by influencer marketing. So, forgive me for being cynical, but that's the reality of where it's come from.
I think I wonder sometimes whether, I've just come across, just by chance, 2 days ago, there's something, it's called Çılgın Dondurmacı. It's Turkish, and it means crazy ice cream. And this guy basically has a stand outside of a shopping mall in Antalya. And his brand is, have you ever seen the traditional Turkish ice cream guys before, where they use a great big stick and they're digging out the ice cream and so forth, and then they'll pass the stick with the cone on the end, and as you grab the cone they'll turn it away, and they make a show out of giving the ice cream.
Oh, really?
This guy's gone completely different, and he's made a song, and everybody's dancing in front of this stall and stand. The guy's got 2.5 million followers on Facebook.
Oh my God.
And that's all he does. Now, when people look at it, I've shown a couple of friends and they're saying, oh my God, he's doing all that for just selling ice cream. And then I realized that some people just don't understand the work that goes into his videos. The videos that he posts on a daily basis, the editing that goes into it and the effects that go into it and so on and so forth. People don't get it. People don't understand. And I think that's why, this stigma around influencers are, that they're not businesses. They're just someone doing something for a laugh. And that's the problem, I think.
I know.
We've got to get that point across.
And they're not. I mean, that's the point. There are many, many others. I mean, I interviewed like a bunch of fashion influencers for London Fashion Week, and that some of them have been around for, Josie London has been doing this for 10 years, actually. When she really started out ex-Burberry, and she's become like the ultimate personal shopper. And she's got a sizable audience on Instagram, but she's been consistent, and she's had many, many people that have followed her. But, I think this thing doesn't happen overnight as well. People that, they want to become an influencer tomorrow. It doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. No. The point of today was to think, right, okay, if we do want to work with somebody, yes, it's going to take time to find relevant influencers. And unless you've got access to a platform, that time can be exhaustive, because you can find some people on the face of it have got a good number of followers, but you've got to then work out their engagement rates and look at the last 10 posts. You've then got to look at all of their feed, make sure there's no profanity there, or there's nothing that's controversial. Oh no, that one's no good. You imagine what it's like to hire an individual. So let's just multiply that by 20. Because if you were looking at 20 influencers, it just takes forever and a day. And then you've got to coordinate them all. You've got to communicate with them all. And it's a big old challenge. And that's the reason why sometimes people will use an agency or an influencer platform to make that job a whole lot easier. But
Yeah.
even then, at the end of the day, you're still talking with human beings. There's no guarantee that even with the right brief, you know, the right vetting, you've got almost like, it's like the Grand National. You've got them all lined up on the racetrack, you know, all of their different colors. You've no idea really how well they're all going to do. Once you will often find some really strong performers within that, then, I mean, like, for example, with a company that we're working with, Audience to Media, we found one particular YouTuber was so successful. I mean, really killing it in terms of conversion to downloads for a VPN network. And so what we decided to do was to ditch some of the others and moving forward, and then just give this one guy a 6-month contract, actually. Because basically he was delivering more as a singleton than the other 5 put together.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's quite interesting, isn't it?
I've noticed as well, depending on the content, and unfortunately, you know, sex sells.
Oh, it does. It does. Yeah, no question
and
about that.
when I was flicking through this guy's past 20 videos or so, you know, you've got videos that are 2 years old and he's got 250,000 views. You've got videos that are 2 weeks old, has 12 million views, but it's because you've got, you know, the ideal perfect looking woman who's dancing in front of a camera. And that's what's taken all the views. So you wonder sometimes whether, you know, when you look at some of these views, you know, does the average advert then for you know, let's say, you know, if there was synergy in our business, would that get that kind of level of views?
And what's happening, John, as well, is because there's so much competition for views, it's almost the content's becoming more and more risky. You know, it's becoming, I've definitely noticed, I don't know if any of you watch TikTok, but TikTok can be quite addictive. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, look at that. You know, it's incredible. But what I think is quite fascinating for me is how some content creators are sticking with the same type of music and the same type of walk. There's a lady maybe a Malaysian lady, I don't know, but she's a model, absolutely very, very striking, but she's always got the same music and she's always walking. So she's never eating food, or she's always walking, and it's her thing. Do you know what I mean? And it's interesting. My behavior to that is because I'm now becoming familiar with it. I look forward to seeing her videos. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not sexy in your face stuff, but it's entertaining, and yeah, she's a good looking woman, you know, but you are right. It's interesting, the psychology of what's making us connect with another human being because of their actions and the music associated with it. Because I think particularly with TikTok, music is very evocative in the way that we engage. Okay, guys, I'd love to get some feedback from anybody else. What's your thoughts on what I was saying? Rosabelle, what's your thoughts? Oh, it's gone quiet. Are you there? Nessie? Kat? Have they just put their screens on and
they've fallen asleep?
Or fallen asleep?
Marienda.
Oh dear. Go on, Rosabelle.
Hi, Gordon.
You're going to say, go on, tell us what you think.
Well, you know, when it comes to influencer marketing, I love watching influencer, especially in Reels, Instagrams, and also in TikTok. Yeah, they are people. They have their like their own time. So basically, the one that you mentioned in your screen, it's very true. Everything is so true that I can definitely think that everyone can relate. Even me, I'm not an influencer, but I can definitely relate to it. Like when it comes to working with them, it should have time. There is like range on what they do, what do they want to do, also with the pricing and everything. So it's very nice. It's very good. I really love it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even things like, you know, if you're asking somebody to make a video, and they need to go out to a destination somewhere. I didn't mention this actually, but it's important. Who's going to pay for their travel? You know, is that part of the agreement? Do they need to get permission when they're at the location to do that? Who's going to sort that out? So all of these little incidentals can play a big part. And what happens if the day of the shoot and you want some outdoor footage, you don't get, like, the rains come down, and what happens then when you've got that? So they've allocated that amount of time to produce that content, and all of a sudden the weather's against them, or they've been delayed because of traffic. All of these things play a big part in making sure that there are elements included within the contract. Kirk, were you going to say something?
Nothing. I have nothing to add about that.
What influencers do you follow? What type of guys and girls do you follow?
I follow Logan Paul
Oh,
in
okay.
YouTube. Yeah, and he's doing some NFT stuff right now and some Pokemon. So I think those are really timely.
Yeah. What is it about Logan Paul that you like, though?
Maybe because of the age, right? It's really we can really relate to him and the jokes he's done before, but now he's more a serious person right now. He's doing some podcast. He's actually a boxer right now.
Of course.
Before he was like a YouTuber, but now he's a YouTuber slash boxer.
Pretend boxer.
Pretend boxer, yes. Pretend.
Yeah, but
He
he
did well with Floyd Mayweather, so that was a really good fight. So
it's incredible though. But so what he brings now is, this is what's really interesting, guys, is that, and I think we mentioned it last week when Elliot from the Rain Dance Film Festival was on the call. It's now important when people are selecting models for shoots, influencers for campaigns, they're now looking as much at the audience. Actually, I should say more models. Because traditionally a model would have here are my photos, here is my style. But they're competing with a lot of other models for look. But now the brands are saying, right, okay, well, I like these people, they look good. On what's their Instagram following like? That never used to be an issue at all. But now they realize that actually, if a model has got a substantial Instagram or TikTok following, it will be another reason why they will select that model. Because actually, if they can somehow not only use the content from the shoot, but the model can share that to their audience, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't she do that? Because she's been integral to it. Then the amplification of their brand message can be, you know, substantial. So yeah, it's an interesting point. Are you guys on TikTok? Are you on TikTok? Kat, are you on TikTok? Are you on TikTok, Kat?
Hi, Gordon. Hi, Jan. So actually, I don't have TikTok account as of now because my platform, I focus on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. But in terms of influencer marketing, I love when you said that you need to research the influencer to check if the content is matched. Why? Because you need to understand the demographics of your ideal target persona, the goals and motivations, the pain points, the common objections and interests. Because why? It could be, your content could be relatable, valuable, interesting, educational, and relevant to our target audience. So it is very important to research the influencer. So yeah.
No, I absolutely agree
That's
with
all.
you. No, thank you, Kat. It's very important though, isn't it? It's because, you know, if we're thinking, that's why I think thinking of them as an employee to your business what sort of steps would you take when you were recruiting somebody in your employee? You'd take a lot of steps, wouldn't you, to make sure that there was a good personal fit? Would they fit into the rest of my team? What abilities do they have to enable them to do their job? Now, okay, that's slightly different with an influencer because that's a given, but actually they're still going to be selling and promoting your brand. So you want to make sure that they do it in the right way, without thrusting and forcing something down their throat. I love the idea as well of giving them guidance as to, look, here is our brand guidelines. Here is our a video of how we make this particular product. This is what we are trying to achieve. We'd love to have your ideas on how you think your content can resonate with your audience, with our brand, and I've definitely seen it. I mean, I remember interviewing a guy from Pernod Ricard about a whiskey brand they were developing in the Far East, and it actually happened that they were producing some really great cocktails that were unique to that culture, that only that influencer was really, it came up with the idea, and it sort of blew the guy from Pernod Ricard away. I thought, wow, we would never have even thought about that. And because of the way in which that brand was associated with food and drink and everything else in that particular market, it was one of the most successful influencer campaigns that they'd had. But that's also because they had brought the influencer into the discussion, the creative discussion, way earlier, rather than just using them as amplifiers at the end of it and say, right, here's our campaign, this is what we're doing, you just go and amplify it. And what I wanted to say with you guys earlier is that influencers aren't just media buys, they're mini creative agencies in their own right. And so therefore use them as such, and actually, if they've been involved in the creative process, they're more invested in making it work even more so than they would otherwise. Does that make sense? Cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. How are you? Can you hear us? Is he there? No.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Mark. Please introduce yourself to Gordon, to everyone. I apologize for the delay because we encounter internet poor connection. So
Why does that happen though? Why does it have the internet? Is it because of the weather storms, or is it because of what? Why does that happen, Kat?
yeah, because if you still remember, our country experienced last January we experienced a typhoon named Odette. So until now we are experiencing low, super poor internet connection to our city. That's why until now we are struggle to connect for a reliable internet connection now. That's why me and my team we experience same problem. So I apologize about it.
No, don't worry. It's just that I want you to be involved in everything. It's and we need to try and get more people into the sessions, because as we were saying, weren't we, John? Recently, I've got nearly 900 people in the Facebook group, but I mean, we have had bigger numbers, obviously, than this. In the early days, we were about 15 or 20, but they are really good content sessions that we talk about here. And I'm trying to figure out how best we can really promote it without, thrusting it in people's faces. If they don't want to come, they don't have to come. But yeah,
actually help.
Say that again.
Now my Facebook ban is up. I'm out of Facebook jail now. I can help. I can do a little bit and get it out there a little bit as well.
Yeah. I don't know if people have got a misunderstanding, as if to say they think they have to do something, or I do try and make it obviously very informal, but even though I ask people questions, I don't want to put people on the spot too much. I want to make sure that they feel comfortable, and But there's nothing worse than just listening to like an hour's worth of talk with webinars all the time, and people are busy for that. I think, if I'm honest, if I were in your position, I'd want to hear about, if you can help me, guys, I've got a little problem this week. And that's what we try and do, don't we, John? We try and help people individually with some issues. And what I like is that I'll shut up sometimes and other people will chip in and say, have you thought about this? And could this work for you? And it's really nice when that happens. So we need to try and foster that more. Okay, all right. Well, unless there's anything else, should we sort of wrap up, guys?
Sure. I've just got one. Remember a few weeks ago, Gordon, I was telling you about, I run a couple of groups supporting local businesses. I've actually got one for the Philippines and I have one for North Cyprus. I met with my developer for web design and so forth a couple of days ago, and we're actually going live for a website in North Cyprus, where we're going to speak to, let's say, a couple of the same type of business, so a couple of hairdressers, a couple of butchers, a couple of greengrocers, and so on and so forth, around the island. So it will be in location, and it's going to be a listing site where the customers, the consumer, can actually go to the website, look for a greengrocer in their area, and we're going to provide the consumer with a loyalty. We're not sure yet whether it's going to be a card or a QR code. But yeah, we actually done some more research over the past few weeks. We've had a real high level of people coming back and saying that they'd really be interested to take the discount card or QR code to be able to go and shop at these places and get that special discount. So yeah, it's good. We're actually moving that forward now.
Oh, well done,
rather
John.
than
That's
just
good
talk.
to hear.
So,
That's good to hear. Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Something different.
Yeah, no, indeed. I mean, what it's like when you're trying to launch a brand, you've almost got to flood it, haven't you? You've really got to get people immersed in it. They often say it takes 14 times for something to be a habit.
Yeah, true.
You have to do something 14 times before it becomes ingrained in your head.
I agree.
And then, because so often what can happen is people like the idea of something and then they forget about it because there's too many other messages or information or things for us to think about. So, I mean, I've been quite fascinated by this brand called Cinch, C-I-N-C-H. Have you heard of it?
Right, no. Cinch.
And Kahoot, C-A-H-O-O-T.
Yeah.
They are absolutely everywhere. Massive brands, multi-million marketing budgets. I mean, it's like everything, and TikTok are now spending millions in advertising in sponsoring major sporting events. I mean, there was, and that didn't happen before, you'd think it. So I think what's really interesting is some of these online brands are now moving into the offline and realizing that actually they can get more eyeballs on partnering with major sporting events. So for example, you start to see TikTok now promoted at tennis championships where you wouldn't have done before. You're starting to see Cinch sponsoring cricket teams. You know what I mean? So it's really, we're now in this situation where if you need to get somebody to change behavior, you've really got to go to town in a very short burst of time. So it's everywhere because it's just not enough. Because I think you can waste money online massively with doing a little bit and thinking, right, because actually there's so much, we're now in this sort of attention economy, aren't we? We're unlikely to get cut through unless I always think it's better to have a short burst campaign everywhere than a little bit spread out. Because if you spread it too wide, it just doesn't get the traction, does it?
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why you see some brands will literally hone in on one market first and really develop it before even branching out to other markets. So there you go.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, guys. Well, look, it's really lovely to see you. I'm sorry the internet wasn't good for all of you, and sorry we didn't get to talk, Mark. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and thanks for your work for me as well. Hope you have a lovely day or rest of the evening.
Thanks, Gordon. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Gordon. Thank you, Mark.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you, John.